Hello everyone and welcome back to the Homebrew Workshop. In this video we're going to take a look at some of the proficiency systems for cooking utensils. We're going to take a look at what we know currently about cooking utensils for D&D 5e, and we're going to take a look at how we can make them more interesting in terms of play for players to actually have proficiency within this system. So, without any further ado, let's take a look at what we know about the tools already. So, what do we know about Cook's Utensils? What we know is that currently for D&D 5e, Cook's Utensils are a type of artisan's tool. They cost 1 gold piece, and they weigh 8 pounds. Cook's Utensils can be used in a number of ways, but it's a little bit more challenging to have it be an actual benefit to having these tools. It's not exactly a crucial thing to be able to make a fancy meal when you're trying to just save the world. That's something that isn't of story importance. So let's find a way to exemplify and amplify the vibe that having Cook's Utensils affords a player character. At this point, having Cook's Utensils as a proficiency allows you as the player to be the cook of the group. You are at any given point within the adventuring day able to be like, alright, I think I'm gonna go make some food for everybody. And then your character goes and walks off and makes food. And you could be sitting there at the game table as a human being, as a player, waiting for like 15 minutes until your DM says, alright, dinner's ready. And then you get to come back and be like, okay, I don't know what you guys have been talking about this whole time, so now you have to get me up to speed, but here's some food. And that in and of itself allows you to have some great characterization, but at the cost of being able to play the game, which is what you're there to do. So let's make it just a little bit more interesting. So what are our goals here? Our goals are to do, for goal 1, we want to make Cook's Utensils something that you can use for downtime activity to make a paycheck. Artisans within different cities and towns will need to earn money, and this as a trade should be something that you can make a living off of. And so you as a player should be able to benefit from that pre-existing kind of niche for a role within the community, being able to get paid for your work and your experience and talent as a cook. Goal number 2. We want to have something for active production that you can do on a fairly regular basis, should you choose to give some sort of a benefit to utilizing your Cook's Utensils. Give you some sort of a benefit to making it more interesting and giving you this amplification of your characterization as a cook, and make people excited when you say, I'm gonna go cook dinner. So let's take a look at how we can do that. Alright, so for the first goal, what I ended up deciding to do is develop a market type system. Cooking in your downtime can be done for a variety of different groups, and so that will really just depend on the work that's available. You may be able to work in a tavern or an inn, or maybe you can work for like a wealthy merchant, or maybe you just run a soup kitchen for the masses, but either way, the availability of these jobs is reflected on kind of the availability of the work within whatever settlement may be needed. So work with your DM to determine when you can do this, because you may not be able to use this tool in the middle of the woods when nobody else is around. And that would make sense, because it's the jobs available table that I have right here. At your DM's discretion, roll 3d6 with each individual number reflecting one job that's available within a particular town or settlement, as well as the base monetary compensation for the job. Now, if you were to roll and you get 1 and 3 and 6, those are the jobs that are available to you within the town for that day. That means that you are fully capable of taking or rejecting any and all of these job positions to try to earn money for them. At the same time, you can utilize personally collected ingredients for this workday during whatever downtime production you would like to increase the hourly wage reflected on the gold piece value associated with the pay per hour kind of table there. So, taking a look at different tiered ingredients on the tiered ingredients table right here, we currently have 5 different tiers of ingredients that are available. Tiered ingredients can be procured in a town or collected out in the world around you, and this gives you the incentive to explore and harvest and collect. You can say, I want to collect these rare berries while I'm in this part of untouched wilderness, and then keep them handy and work well. That would be something that you then work with your DM. Your DM can tell you what tier the ingredients would be, with tier 1 being the lowest and tier 5 being the highest. And so tier 1 would be an added 1d4 times 10 gold pieces for the ingredient value, and tier 5 would be an increase of 1d12 times 10 to the ingredient value. And then you can use these ingredients to augment your pay per hour, which may afford you a certain bit of reputation or renown based on your skills as a cook. So, leaving the tiered ingredients, let's go back to the jobs available table. If you have a role that's the 1, the 3, and the 6, and you choose to take the role for 6, which is a catered event, you can choose to spend anywhere from 4 to 8 hours working for the catered event. Now, some of these jobs will require you to be there for at the very least the 4 hours of prep time, and then you can walk away. And which is why it's 4 to 8. You have to dedicate at least 4 hours to it. This is in prep time for cooking. This is if you go further into the 8 hours. This is service during the event. This is kind of maintenance. This is, preparing the food, cleaning the dishes, dealing with all aspects of that for the logistical purposes of it. But for each of those hours, you earn, for the catered event on the pay per hour column, 2d10 times 10 gold pieces that you can choose after the 4 hour mark when to be done. And so you can say, okay, I'm going to stay for the 4 hours, I'm going to stay for the 5th hour, I'm going to stay for the 6th hour. Oh wait, the party's doing something and they came and got me. Now I want to leave. And right when you leave, you get your paycheck. You're done. There you go. They hand you the 2d10 times 10, then, times 6 for it's like 6 hours. So you roll your 2d10 times 10, you multiply that total by 6, and that's indicative of what they have been willing to pay you for your work and your skills thus far. So, from there, you have your appropriate hourly pay for each hour there, right? And so you have your 2d10 times 10 for the catering event, and then you can augment it, like I said, with added benefits of your tiered ingredients. So if during that time you were to use a tier 5 ingredient that gives you the 1d12 times 10, and you roll a 12, now you can just be like, well, on top of that, they're also going to pay me 120 gold pieces because I had this extremely rare thing that I plopped down on the counter and was like, what's up? And they were like, oh my god, you got the legendary flank of lamb, and neat. You have it, and you totally wowed the amazing catered event. So yeah, they're going to pay you for the a massively rare ingredient. That's amazing. So you can augment your work that way for your pay. This can be restarted the following day, should your DM allow it, depending on what you would be willing to do. You can also re-roll on the table the next day. If your party is going to be in town for a week, you have the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to roll day 1, I'm going to take this job, alright, and okay, day 2, I want to roll this, and there we go. And you can work with your DM to make that work for a kind of a truncated, sake of brevity kind of a thing. But for the most part, you can just dedicate your time and your hours that way. And this is what you do to earn a paycheck. It's kind of a good retirement skill from adventuring is, I've got all these amazing ingredients and my adventure's over. I might as well just kind of be the best chef that I've ever had. To fulfill the second part of the cooking tool proficiency system, I wanted to make an active cooking system. Active aspects of cooking allow you to collect ingredients within the world and utilize them in recipes to create interesting dishes. Now, going back in, you can look at the tiered ingredients table, and there's not only the gold piece, but the modifier value. Keep in mind and keep track of that. So, during the day, if you were to spend 1 hour of downtime to perform some basic cooking, you can produce a meal for your party members. This meal has some very specific requirements, however. First of all, the meal must have at the very least 3 ingredients, or ingredients equal to the number of consumers of the meal itself. Basically, you gotta make enough food. You know, if you have an entire army to feed, the system is not designed for you to say, here's 3 ingredients that I can Breath of the Wild kind of throw in a pot, and look, now I can feed 1 million people. No, you have to, if you have an adventuring party of 3 people, you have your 3 ingredients. If you have an adventuring party of 8 people, you need 8 ingredients. And from there, you can make a variety of different meals, benefiting from each ingredient's value. Once the meal is completed, the chosen number of individuals are able to spend an hour consuming the meal, gaining the following benefits chosen by the chef. Now, this is where the table comes back into play. Depending on the ingredients and their tiers, you have the ability to give some very specific and very helpful bonuses for the rest of the adventuring day, kind of as a modified and more real-world hero's feast. If you have an adventuring party of 5 people and you were to use 5 tier 1 ingredients, then you have a combined modifier value of 5 ones, or just 5. And so from there, you choose from like 4 different boons. You can give resistance, vitality, heroism, or ferocity. For resistance, consumers of the meal may, once within the next 24 hours, add the total modifier value of the ingredients to a single saving throw. So this is a last final holdover from having an amazing meal that one of your party members cooked. At one point, even if you and your 5-person group were to make a meal with 5 tier 1 ingredients, you can, once within the next 24 hours, add 5 to a saving throw. And that's on top of any other bonuses that you might get from spells or anything else. And then once you use it, it's gone. If you don't use it in the 24 hours and kind of moves on, then you lose it there, but no harm, no foul. You can make another meal. And so resistance is kind of added to a saving throw. You have this meal with that you've eaten that has given you a little bit more of a fortitude to you. There's also vitality. Consumers of the meal may add the total modifier value of the meal's ingredients as temporary hit points, and these temporary hit points do remain for that full 24-hour duration. Now, that makes you a little bit more physically hardy. Heroism is the other kind of benefit that we have. Consumers of the meal may add the total modifier value of the meal's ingredients to a single attack roll within the next 24 hours. If the added bonus would bring the roll value to a 20, the roll is treated as a natural 20 and becomes a critical hit. This is the kind of interesting thing that you can gamble on, is you can use a bunch of ingredients to figure out exactly what you're going to do for these kinds of things. But ultimately you're like, okay, that's a plus 5, right? For the 5 tier 1 ingredients. If you were to roll a 15, you can say, oh, I'm going to use this one thing from my really good meal, and it's actually a natural 20, which is a one-time, very powerful thing to be able to do, but it's fairly rare because you have to have some semblance of an idea of what somebody's going to roll for it to be a natural 20. So there's a few ways that you could kind of cheat this and make it work, like a divination wizard's portent or something else like reliable talent, but this is kind of a benefit that you can give once because you had an amazing meal and you are so good at your job. The last benefit is ferocity. Consumers of the meal may add the total modifier value of the meal's ingredients to a single damage roll one time within the next 24 hours. So it's not as impressive when you have 5 tier 1 ingredients, but you could add potentially 5 more damage of the associated type. If it's a short sword, it could be slashing or piercing. If it's a monk's fist, it could be just, bludgeoning damage. But you can hit just a little bit harder for a little bit more damage, and you can choose to do so after you've rolled and if you've hit. This, however, gets a little bit scarier when you use higher tier ingredients. If you're lucky enough to get a hold of, for your party of 5 tier 5 ingredients, you can give somebody a plus 25 to damage, which means that they're doing quite a bit of damage on one hit. Now, this does not stack or double. This does not double with like a crit or a critical hit. This is just a flat plus 25, but it does stack with other bonuses like magic weapons and other things like that have a +1 to hit and damage, and other things like that for magic. But this is just you hit harder because your cook is real damn good. There's something to be said for a good hot meal when you're in some of the harshest environments, and this is kind of one of the things that you as the cook can lean into is, well, I want to give people resistance because I know that it's going to be a really hard day of travel through the tundra, and I don't want them to be too cold, so I think this might be clutch. And this gives you the ability to kind of try to think ahead, and you can flavor your recipe, no pun intended, but flavor your recipe to be something that might afford a little bit more resistance. Maybe to deal with this saving throw and grant resistance while walking through the tundra, you're like, you know what? I'm going to make you guys the world's best hot cocoa. And then you totally roll with that and say, this is the world's best hot cocoa. These are some of the ingredients that are going into it. I've got raw cocoa beans from that time we went to this part of the world. I've got these things. I've got this kind of fresh spring water. and then you just lean into that and you make it vibe out. Right? And so you can make things very interesting from a player perspective. And that's what I wanted to afford the proficiency system, so that you can lean into being the very good cook. And you can lean into your, best Gordon Ramsay top shelf feelings at the same time, making it a very big part of your character should you choose to do so. So, that's it for the Cook's Utensils, but thank you all for watching and sticking with. We'll see you all in the next video when we discuss whatever the next tool might be. I think I'm going to try to go through all my player proficiencies for the campaign, kind of get into those so that that's dealt with, and then maybe we'll go through the other proficiencies as well. But thank you all for watching. Don't forget to be good to one another, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!